Today on the deep dive, we are looking at a sequence of events that is just so immediate, so psychologically devastating, we have to treat it as a real-time crisis.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is the story of a man who runs from this unimaginable horror only to deliver a confession of love, murder, and a chemical weapon that can literally erase life in an instant.
Right. And our mission here is really to excavate all those layers, the emotional collapse, the lethal action.
In this deep dive, we're calling the ashes of truth.
Exactly. Our focus is that psychological shockwave coming out of a single soundproof laboratory. We're unpacking the emotional, the psychological, and, the physical consequences of this dark scientific discovery.
And the desperate actions it inspired.
We start with the wreckage of a man, Malcolm Bruce, and the only person he felt he could run to.
Okay, so let's start there. The moment Bruce arrives at Prague's apartment,
Mm-hmm.
you have Prague, who lives this, quiet, business-focused life. It's the perfect, calm backdrop for just absolute chaos to walk through the door.
It really is.
And Bruce isn't just stressed. I mean, the way it's described, he is utterly broken. Can you sort of paint that picture for us?
I mean, the scene is immediately unsettling. The man who arrives is physically unrecognizable to his friend, Prague.
Right.
He's described as gaunt, ungainly. He doesn't sit in a chair. He sort of collapses into it.
Wow.
And the description of his physical distress is so precise, it's disturbing. His mouth is twitching. His eyes are deep set with this worried, hunted look.
So this is way beyond just fatigue.
Look, absolutely. This is profound psychological trauma, that is. That's manifesting physically. His body is betraying his mind's terror.
And you mentioned that hunted look. The key indicator that this is something more is his movement, right? He keeps glancing around the room.
That furtive glancing is so significant. I mean, it tells us he believes the horror he just escaped is somehow still pursuing him.
It's not a memory. It's active.
It's active. He isn't just looking over his shoulder in a general way.
Mm-hmm.
He's scanning the environment as if he expects something, some hidden threat from that lab to literally pounce on him.
So his mind is projecting the violence he just witnessed.
Exactly. Right onto the safe, quiet space of Prague's living room.
Prague's response to this is, it's fascinating to me because it's so practical. It's almost anti-dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't pepper him with questions. He just focuses on stabilizing the man in front of him. He pours wine and he just issues a command. Brace up.
And Bruce's reaction to that command is telling. He downs the drink with a hasty gulp.
Right.
Which indicates this severe internal fire that he's desperately trying to put out.
Or at least suppress.
Or suppress, yeah. That practical intervention from Prague, the man of uneventful business, is the objective anchor Bruce needs in that moment.
But what makes this whole situation just so extraordinary is the contrast with the man Prague knew.
Precisely. The source material goes out of its way to emphasize that Prague knew Bruce as a figure of steady nerves and iron will.
The definition of self-control.
The definition of it. So for a man of that caliber to be reduced to this colorless, twitching wreck, it means the experience wasn't just stressful. It was fundamentally destructive to his entire personality.
It shattered him.
It shattered the very foundation of who he was.
But then there's a pivot, and this is such a brilliant piece of psychological staging. He doesn't stay broken.
No, he doesn't.
After that first drink and during a second cigar, his composure starts to return. He actually snaps back, becoming the dominant, self-reliant figure Prague recognized.
And that contrast, that pulling himself back together, it establishes the depth of what he's about to confess.
How so?
It suggests he's performing this tremendous act of will. He is consciously forcing himself back into control just so he can externalize the horror. He's basically shifting the burden of this knowledge onto Prague.
So the broken man needed safety.
Right. And the composed man is ready to confess, ready to seek absolution. It just proves the extreme depth of the trauma he's carrying.
And the confession, when it finally comes, is instantly gripping. I mean, Bruce opens by saying he's just been through the most devilish, gruesome experience that ever befell a man.
And he immediately follows it up with a disclaimer.
He worries Prague will think he's gone crazy.
Which is, it's a necessary framing, really.
Yeah.
Because the events he's about to describe, they just defy common sense. He's prepping his listener.
Yeah. This is going to sound insane, but I promise you it's real.
It's the cold, hard truth.
And we get Prague's perspective here, which makes him such a valuable sounding board for all this. He has this prosaic, flat, uneventful business life, but
he secretly craves the bizarre.
Exactly. He loves this role of the reluctant confidant, just absorbing these impossible stories.
Prague isn't just a passive listener, though. He's an intellectual processor. His mundane life makes him the perfect, unbiased analytical engine for Bruce's chaos. He's the intellectual counterpoint to the emotional breakdown.
He's looking for the aha moment.
He is, the moment that proves the world is stranger and darker than his ledgers suggest.
The whole narrative then anchors itself when Bruce asks the critical question, the one that connects this ethereal terror to something real. Do you happen to have heard of Professor Van Allister?
And that question just shifts everything. The terror is no longer this generalized paranoia. It now has a specific location, a specific antagonist, and a shared reality. It's the hook.
Right, this isn't a ghost story anymore.
No. Prague now knows this is anchored in the world of academic chemistry, which somehow makes it immediately more sinister.
The moment Van Allister's name is mentioned, Arthur Van Allister Prague knows exactly who he is.
He confirms the identity instantly.
A former college chemistry professor who resigned specifically to pursue his own intensive, isolated experiments.
And that detail is just paramount. Van Allister isn't some back-alley hack. He's a known, credentialed scientist.
But he deliberately stepped away from the system.
From peer review, from institutional oversight, he chose the path of the isolated genius. And so often in these kinds of narratives, that's the path that leads straight toward, ethical corruption.
He felt the scientific community was too slow for him.
Or too constraining, yeah.
So let's talk about the lab environment, because the physical setting is so crucial for everything that happens next.
The lab is.
Yeah.
It's a deliberate sanctuary for unchecked experimentation. It's built on the top floor of his home, which gives it a physical distance from daily life.
But the most important detail.
It is soundproof.
Right.
And this is not just for convenience. You have to see this as a kind of ethical firewall. It ensures that any screams, any evidence of unethical work, any catastrophic failure remains entirely private.
It's a space where moral rules can be suspended.
Because there are no witnesses,
Yeah.
no one to hear.
And then Bruce enters this hermetic world. He was an old college acquaintance, dabbled in chemistry, and he was out of a job.
So he gets hired as Van Allister's assistant. It sounds professional on the surface.
But it immediately places him in a highly vulnerable position.
Exactly. Bruce is competent, but he's also financially dependent. He's a partner in this isolated venture, and he's immediately subjected to the professor's increasingly erratic rules and schedule.
And he's not the only other person there. There's a third player in this drama, Marjorie Purdy. She's the secretary/assistant, described as strict attention to business, efficient, and also good-looking.
But she very quickly becomes much more than just a secretary.
For evolution is key, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely key. Marjorie develops this genuine intellectual interest in the work. She starts spending all her spare time in the lab, puttering around, making experiments of her own.
So this isn't just passive support.
Not at all. She has this burgeoning technical competence. She's actively engaging with this esoteric world of chemistry, and she's establishing herself as an intellectual equal, or at least a highly motivated student.
And it's that intellectual drive that really forms the foundation of her relationship with Bruce.
Right. Their forced proximity, working on these difficult experiments together. It creates a bond forged in mutual technical respect.
He relied on her. The text says she took to chemistry as a duck takes to water.
It's a relationship built on high stakes, shared professional respect first. And that's what makes their later emotional bond so much stronger, so much more immediate. They're partners in this unique pressurized environment.
While the professor is sinking deeper into isolation.
Bruce and Marjorie are forming this tight, necessary alliance. Their connection is professional long before it's romantic, which gives it a real gravity.
And the source material has this wonderful little detail about Bruce's admiration for her.
Yes, he observes her fussing around these, quote, smelly bottles and sticky messes, yet she is always gowned in pristine white rubber gloves.
That contrast.
That contrast is so potent. Her composure, her fastidiousness in the face of all this chemical chaos, it just amplifies her allure in his eyes. She's a beacon of order and competence in a really dangerous world.
The whole atmosphere shifts dramatically about 2 months into Bruce's time there.
Right. Van Allister partitions the lab.
He creates a separate, secluded workshop, a physical barrier that signals a huge change in the power dynamic.
The creation of that seclusion zone is the crucial precursor to the entire crisis. Van Allister's motivation is purely narcissistic. He declares he's undertaking experiments that will bring him everlasting fame.
And that ambition is what fuels his refusal to involve them.
A flat refusal. No collaboration, no oversight. It's a complete descent into secrecy, and critically, complete abandonment of any kind of accountability.
And what does that do to Bruce and Marjorie?
Well, it just strengthens their bond, while the professor becomes this mysterious, almost detached figure. He skips meals, he's totally consumed by his work,
So they're left alone for days at a time.
which reinforces their shared private world and, of course, intensifies their feelings for each other. The professor's isolation creates the exact conditions necessary for their romance to flourish in opposition to his madness.
It's a psychological pressure cooker.
Absolutely. The professor is sacrificing his humanity for fame, and in the vacuum he creates, his two assistants are finding their humanity and love.
That secrecy finally breaks. 2 days before Bruce shows up at Prague's apartment, Van Allister invites them into the workshop. He's ready to show them his success.
The tension must have been just unbearable. After months of waiting, he's finally ready to unveil the project he thinks will change the world.
And the result is presented with this startling banality. He just holds up a small bottle of a colorless liquid.
And he claims it is the greatest chemical discovery ever known.
The simplicity is chilling.
A clear, innocuous liquid in a common bottle. That contrast between the ordinary vessel and its catastrophic content, it just amplifies the horror that's about to unfold.
Power hidden in plain sight.
Exactly.
The experiment itself is swift and clinical.
Very clinical.
Van Allister places a frightened rabbit into a small glass box, sets up a glass funnel, and slowly empties the liquid into it.
And pay attention to the technical detail there. The use of glass.
A box, the funnel.
Right. This is the first practical, deliberate showcase of the liquid's one critical limitation. It tells us Van Allister knew exactly what his creation could and could not touch.
And the horror is, it's instant.
Instantaneous.
Marjorie lets out a suppressed cry. Bruce rubs his eyes in disbelief, and the rabbit is reduced to nothing but a pile of soft white ashes.
The annihilation is total. There's no struggle, no blood, just instant reduction.
It's the totality of that destruction that's the core trauma. It's not death, it's erasure.
That speed, that absolute finality, is what psychologically breaks the witnesses. It confirms that the professor possesses a power that simply should not exist in human hands.
And we have to analyze the professor's reaction here because this is the moment he fully transforms from, eccentric scientist to madman.
His reaction isn't intellectual triumph. It's pure megalomania. His face radiates ghoulish glee. His eyes are alight with a weird, insane gleam. His satisfaction is supreme.
His voice even changes. It takes on a tone of mastery.
He is consumed by the power. He sees this not as a scientific breakthrough, but as his claim on global dominance.
And he immediately reveals the terrifying scope of this liquid. It instantaneously reduces anything, wood, metal, stone, organisms to ash.
With glass as the sole exception.
The implication is just staggering. It fundamentally changes warfare, infrastructure, the very nature of life itself.
The entire material world, save for glass, is rendered instantly temporary.
And the global threat he articulates right away, it confirms his madness. He declares, an army equipped with glass bombs filled with my compound could annihilate the world.
And that instantly shifts the discovery from a lab curiosity to an apocalyptic weapon. He has no ethical filter. He jumps immediately to global annihilation.
The idea that all the world's military power could be neutralized by this liquid in a glass container.
That is the terrifying realization that hits Marjorie and Bruce.
And their reaction is visceral. Marjorie's face goes, white as the apron she wore. Bruce acknowledges this deep mental chill.
They are watching a dangerous, unhinged man revel in a power that could end human civilization.
Van Allister just dismisses them after that. He seals his secret back behind those tightly closed doors.
And the moment they are outside that workshop, the pressure of what they just saw, that shared horror, it causes Marjorie's nerves to just break. She reels.
And in that exact moment, Bruce acts.
He catches her.
He casts, as the text says, prudence to the winds. This is a love born of pure, shared catastrophe.
It's a primal reaction. I mean, when the world has just been proven to be instantly destructible, the only rational response is to cling fiercely to the one connection that feels real and safe.
He crushes her tightly to my breast and kisses her.
Until he sees love light reflected in her eyes. The trauma catalyzed their romance instantly. It gave them a shared, urgent secret beyond even the professor's work.
But the reality of their surroundings quickly intrudes.
It does.
They realize the laboratory, especially with the professor in his present state of mind, is no place for these ardent demonstrations.
The danger of Van Allister adds this high-stakes urgency to their romance. They now have a shared life to look forward to. but only if they can escape the man who just demonstrated the power of absolute erasure.
So the soundproof lab, designed to keep the professor's secrets in.
Now holds two people who share a secret of their own, their devotion, which stands in direct opposition to the professor's utter devotion to destruction.
The 2 days following that demonstration are described as this intense, compressed period of happiness.
Bruce was an automaton at work, entirely focused on delightful daydreaming.
You have to pause and consider the intensity of this. This is post-traumatic bonding.
Absolutely. They're living on borrowed time, they've stared into the abyss together, and now they're just grasping fiercely at immediate joy.
That night, Marjorie promised to marry him, a night of unalloyed bliss and delirious joy.
Their commitment is total, but it's only 48 hours old. That extreme emotional high is what makes the fall that's coming so devastating.
And the fall is triggered by something utterly mundane.
It always is.
Today, at noontime, Bruce just steps out for an essential item for an experiment, a normal professional necessity.
And that mundane absence is the window. It provides the opportunity for the disaster. He returns, and his world has fractured again.
Marjorie is gone.
Gone. Her hat and coat are missing. The professor is still locked away. There are no witnesses, no messages.
And the combination of her being missing and his knowledge of what that liquid can do.
It instantly locks his mind onto the worst possible conclusion.
Bruce's distress just accelerates into full-blown panic. The afternoon drags on, turning frantic. Evening comes, and he abandons all thought of work. He's pacing like a caged lion.
That phrase, caged lion, is so potent. He is trapped within the confines of that house in his own terrifying imagination. He can't act, he can't search, he can only wait.
It's the onset of acute stress.
Combined with grief. His life of sublime love has plunged immediately to the darkest depths of despair.
Let's analyze the time distortion here during this waiting game.
Time becomes an instrument of torture for him. Minutes feel like hours. Hours become an eternity. Every phone jangle, every doorbell. It's a false hope.
And each one leads to another crushing disappointment.
And all the while, he's conjuring visions of all sorts of terrible fates. And given what he witnessed with the rabbit, those fates are truly unimaginable.
His mind is effectively torturing him.
With images of Marjorie's annihilation, over and over.
So by the time the butler finally summons him, his mind is already fractured. It's primed for violence, driven by this intense cocktail of terror and loss.
At 7:30 p.m., the call comes. The butler summons him to the laboratory.
And despite his mental agony, he still has this rigid professional obedience.
While I was under his roof, he was my master. That residual duty compels him toward what will become the scene of his breakdown.
He finds the professor's workshop door slightly ajar. Van Allister tells him to close the main lab door and come in.
And Bruce describes his mind in that moment as being so intensely focused by the trauma that it photographs every minute detail of the scene.
It's trauma hyperfocus.
Yeah. It's critical. His brain is recording the visual evidence because it's desperately trying to make sense of the chaos. But that photographic memory is going to be filtered entirely through his grief and through his certainty that Marjorie is dead.
Which leads him to a catastrophic but immediate conclusion.
Right. He is entering that workshop not as an assistant, but as a victim and an avenger.
So Bruce walks into the workshop, and the scene is, it's been carefully staged by the professor.
Oh, absolutely. It is designed not just to terrify, but to demonstrate finality.
In the center of the room, there's the core prop, a marble-top table holding a glass case.
But this isn't just any container. The source describes it as the size and shape of a coffin.
A coffin filled almost to the brim with the colorless liquid.
Van Allister has created a ceremonial death trap. The shape, the volume of liquid, it all just screams intent for human annihilation.
And next to that, on a little glass-top taboret, there's a newly labeled glass jar.
Filled with soft white ashes.
Bruce has an involuntary shudder. This is the visual proof that the professor has recently used the compound on a large organism.
The combination of the glass coffin and the jar of ashes, it acts as this terrifying diorama. It's an explicit threat.
Yeah.
But this staging is also a classic psychological trap.
How so?
It leads Bruce's fractured mind to connect the recent emptiness in his life with the physical evidence right in front of him.
And then, the final piece of evidence. The thing that stops his heart.
Marjorie's hat and coat.
Just resting casually on a chair in the corner.
The clothes of the girl who just promised to marry him, juxtaposed with the vessel of annihilation and the remains of a recently cremated creature.
The realization for him is instantaneous, and in his state, undeniable.
There could be but one explanation. The ashes in that jar were the ashes of Marjorie Purdy.
And his world just stands still.
The trauma of loss, the fear of the weapon, and the visual evidence all converge in that one single moment to completely erase his sanity.
Bruce says it himself. He goes stark, staring mad.
And this is the moment the rational scientist just vanishes. He's replaced by a grief-stricken Avenger acting on pure, catastrophic impulse.
It's a defense mechanism.
Absolutely. The mind cannot accept the annihilation of its core anchor, so it switches to pure protective aggression. The struggle begins immediately.
And it's desperation versus calculation.
Right. The professor, though older, still has a strength nearly equal to mine, and crucially the advantage of calm self-possession.
Van Allister, the killer, is executing a plan. Bruce, the grieving lover, is just thrashing against reality.
And Van Allister, cold and calculated, forces Bruce closer and closer to that glass coffin. He's aiming for instant erasure.
Bruce fighting for his life.
And he's fighting against the ultimate horror of being the second witness to Marjorie's annihilation, only to be immediately followed by his own.
But in the chaos, he stumbles against the tabaret.
And his hand closes around the glass jar of ashes, the very object that symbolized his despair.
The symbol of Marjorie's murder.
And he turns that symbol of his grief into a weapon of vengeance. With his superhuman effort, driven by fury and despair, he brings the jar down on the professor's skull and crushes it.
The emotional complexity of that, killing the murderer with the presumed remnants of his victim.
It's enormous.
Bruce is still operating in a state of shock, of receding madness. He acts mechanically. He describes this ritualistic lowering of the professor's limp body into the casket of liquid.
That unnatural calm is the residue of his madness. It's a temporary state of dissociation that follows extreme violence. He's neutralizing the threat, and he knows exactly what to do with the body.
And the result is absolute. A moment, and it was over.
The professor and the liquid both gone, replaced by a little pile of soft white ashes.
The annihilating power of the professor's own creation turned perfectly against him.
And this is the chilling realization of the perfect crime. Bruce's brainstorm passed away, and he's left facing the cold, hard truth of murder.
But because of the liquid, nothing remained but ashes.
No body, no blood, no weapon residue. The only evidence of the professor's end is Bruce's testimony and the fact that he was the last man standing in that soundproof room.
Yeah.
The psychological toll is immense, but physically, the evidence of homicide has been completely erased by chemistry.
Driven by that receding, unnatural calm, Bruce tries to cover his tracks.
Right, he acts with this meticulous control.
Putting on his coat and hat, telling the butler the professor was not to be disturbed, leaving for the evening. It's a temporary, calculated denial of what just happened.
This is that part of his identity reasserting itself. The man of steady nerves, taking control of the physical scene. But the moment he steps outside, the facade just shatters.
It all collapses.
His self-possession vanishes. He wanders aimlessly, nerves shot to pieces, until he instinctively finds his way to Prague.
And he just hands over the entire burden. He concludes his confession, trembling, believing his life is over now that Marjorie is gone. He lays his fate at Prague's feet.
And this
Oh.
This is Prague's defining moment. He is the cold, analytical counterpoint to Bruce's madness.
He leans across the table, gazing at him, not with judgment,
but with critical analysis. He rises, he's preparing to act, and he just cuts through the emotional narrative with sharp, logical skepticism.
He asks the two vital questions that destabilize Bruce's entire reality. Are you sure Marjorie Purdy is dead?
And critically, are you positive that the ashes in that jar were the ashes of Marjorie Purdy?
And these questions just force Bruce to acknowledge the cognitive failure, the breakdown induced by his trauma.
Bruce is startled. The text says his eyes widen, and he has to admit he jumped at conclusions.
He realizes his entire decision to commit homicide was based on the sight of a coat and a jar of ashes, seen through the filter of catastrophic grief.
He confirms he was berserk mad, and most importantly, he doesn't know what Van Allister said before the struggle began.
And that realization that the justification for his crime, the source of his despair, might be flawed, that's the breakthrough.
And Prague acts instantly. He moves from being a philosophical confidant to a man of action. He concludes that if she's not dead, she must still be trapped somewhere in that house.
So they rush back. The urgency must have been just palpable.
Oh, absolutely. It's driven by the realization that if she's still alive, every single minute counts. Bruce uses his key, they get into the lab, and the workshop door is still ajar.
Exactly as he left the scene of the murder.
The perfection of the crime scene is confirmed, just frozen in time.
Prague immediately scans the room with a sharp, comprehensive eye. He's looking for what Bruce missed in his madness.
And he spots it. A closed, locked door near the window leading to an anteroom.
Which Bruce confirms is where the professor keeps his apparatus.
Right. Prague, the pragmatist, he knows the professor's isolation was total. If she was alive, she had to be hidden nearby. That locked door, overlooked by Bruce in his grief, is now the only logical hiding place left.
And he doesn't waste time with a key.
No, he acts grimly. He forces the door open with 3 well-directed kicks, shattering the framework. The physical intervention of Prague breaks the professor's final barrier of secrecy.
Bruce, now filled with this frantic hope, where just hours before there was utter despair, lets out an inarticulate cry and rushes across the room.
To a huge mahogany chest.
He frantically finds a key, flings back the cover, and there she is, Marjorie's limp figure.
The reversal of fortune is just monumental. The relief must have been instantaneous, but the sight of her unconscious, still shocking.
They rush her out for air, and Bruce, remembering his training even in all this chaos, mixes and administers something to revive her.
And her reawakening is the final confirmation of Bruce's redemption. Her bewildered glance settles on him, and her eyes light up with sudden, happy recognition.
That light confirms not only that she's alive,
but the totality of their shared love. And it lifts the absolute burden of murder from Bruce's soul, at least in terms of his justification for it.
So once Marjorie is stable, she starts to tell her story. And it instantly clarifies the circumstantial evidence that drove Bruce to kill.
She confirms the professor sent for her after Bruce left, and to save time, she brought her hat and coat with her.
That simple, innocent detail, the coat and hat, meant for convenience, was interpreted by Bruce as the ultimate proof of death.
And her story just continues to reveal the professor's methodical insanity.
The ambush was sudden, brutal.
Van Alster attacked her from behind, tied her hand and foot. And that soundproof room, which was so essential for his scientific isolation, meant a gag was unnecessary. Her screams would be swallowed entirely.
And here we get the true identity of the ashes.
Right. Van Alster produced a huge Newfoundland dog, reduced it to ashes right before her eyes, and put those ashes in the jar on the tabouret.
The very ashes Bruce used to kill him.
The ashes Bruce used to crush the professor's skull. The supposed remains of his fiancée were actually the remains of a large animal. It confirms the liquid's capacity for annihilating higher life forms, and it proves Bruce's assumption was based on tragic misinterpretation.
But the professor wasn't finished. He brought out the glass casket and filled it, and then he told Marjorie that only one thing remained.
An experiment upon a human being.
And he chose Bruce as the subject, and Marjorie was forced to be the witness.
I mean, let's just analyze Van Alster's final state of mind here. He was utterly insane. He was dilating at length about the privilege of sacrificing one's life for such a cause.
This is scientific zealotry turned into a kind of religious fanaticism.
He viewed human life as just the ultimate material for his everlasting fame. And the fact that he wanted Marjorie to witness Bruce's annihilation shows the true depth of his sadism and his megalomania.
Marjorie faints from the sheer, overwhelming terror of it all.
And Van Alster, probably fearing Bruce's return, must have moved her while she was unconscious. She wakes up inside that suffocating mahogany chest.
She describes the panic, the stifling air, her despair.
Despair at the thought of Bruce being annihilated. She actually prayed he would kill her too. A wish for oblivion, rather than the pain of witnessing Bruce's erasure. Her confinement was a sensory deprivation prison, a final, horrifying act by the man who had perfected the art of elimination.
So the immediate personal drama has reached its climax. Marjorie is safe. Bruce is redeemed from the guilt of a wrongly justified murder.
Right, but the reality of what Bruce did remains.
And Marjorie, revived, looking at Bruce, asks the single direct question, where is the professor?
And that question just hangs heavy in the air. I mean, Bruce can't just say, I killed him because I thought he killed you, and I turned him into ash with his own invention.
The truth is too horrifying, too layered with trauma to just say out loud, especially right after her rescue.
The professor's end is their final, ultimate secret.
So Bruce responds not with words, but with action. He lets the scene, the chemical reality, deliver the confession.
He silently leads her into the workshop, past the now empty glass coffin.
He crosses directly to the spot, the area where Van Alster's body was instantly reduced.
And in the profound, soundproof silence, he performs the final, ultimate confession. He takes up a handful of the soft white ashes, and he lets them sift slowly through his fingers.
And that single action is layered with so much meaning.
It confirms Van Alster's death, it avenges the terror, And it shows Marjorie what Bruce did to save them both. This is a silent testimony of murder, of rescue, and of the shared trauma they will now have to carry together.
The ashes are the only physical evidence of the perfect crime.
And now they're using them to confirm the truth between themselves. The total erasure of the professor's body means they are insulated from any legal consequence, but they are not free. They share a terrifying physical secret,
Bruce and Marjorie are now forever bound, not just by love,
but by the memory of violence and the knowledge of the ultimate power of chemical annihilation.
The personal drama is resolved. The lovers are safe. The killer is gone, vanished into his own product. But the true, horrifying implication remains the weapon itself.
Exactly. What happens now? What happens to the soundproof laboratory, the apparatus, and most importantly, the formula for that colorless liquid?
This is, as the source material confirms, the greatest chemical discovery ever known.
A compound capable of instantaneous total annihilation. The secret to world annihilation is now held by two traumatized non-military individuals, Bruce and Marjorie, and their single confidant, Prague.
And that is the ultimate burden. They didn't just survive an ordeal, they inherited a weapon of mass destruction.
They know how to replicate its terrible power. They know its sole counteragent is glass.
So what is their ethical duty now? I mean, do you destroy the formula, risking its accidental rediscovery later?
Or do you guard it and effectively become the world's unwilling custodians of global destruction?
The world doesn't know what happened in that soundproof room. The professor achieved his fame, but only as a pile of ashes and only known by his intended victim.
The entire future of global safety, the containment of the power to instantly erase civilization, now rests on the psychological stability and the moral choices of a couple who just survived their own personal apocalypse. That secret and those ashes of truth will forever define their life together.